Habits play a huge role in defining who we are. A lot of what we do every day is based on our habits. In fact, it's believed that about 70% of our daily actions are habitual. Everyone is different, and if you find it hard to develop one habit, it doesn't mean you'll have trouble with others. There's a common idea that it takes 21 days to form a habit, though some say it takes 18, 30, or even 60 days. So, how long does it actually take? Does it depend on the specific habit you're trying to develop, or does it vary from person to person? A key study from 2009 on how habits are formed found that it takes anywhere from 18 to 254 days for a new habit to stick. On average, people needed about 66 days to make one of 3 new daily activities a regular part of their routine: eating a piece of fruit with lunch, drinking a bottle of water with lunch, or running for 15 minutes before dinner. Doing these activities every day was the most important factor in making them automatic. In this video, let's explore how our nervous system learns and adapts, using this knowledge to understand how we form, maintain, and break habits. Let's also learn a specific tool from research psychology that can help with these processes. But before we start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the bell button so you won't miss any of our interesting videos. When you keep doing something over and over again, your brain starts to remember how to do it automatically. It's like when you learn to ride a bike or tie your shoes. Each time you practice, your brain makes small changes to help you get better at it. We call this type of memory procedural memory. Now, in the world of neuroscience, we sort memories into 2 main groups: episodic memory and procedural memory. Episodic memory is when you remember specific events or moments from your past, like your last birthday party or a vacation you took. But procedural memory is different. It's all about remembering the steps or actions you need to take to do something, like following a recipe to bake a cake or knowing how to do certain exercises. For example, think about when you're following a recipe in the kitchen. You remember the steps to mix ingredients, bake them, and decorate the cake. That's procedural memory in action. Or when you're working out, you remember how many sets and reps to do, or the route to run or cycle. Even in swimming, you remember the number of laps and strokes and how to do them correctly. All of these are examples of procedural memory at work. Understanding procedural memory can be super helpful when you're trying to pick up new habits and get past what we call limbic friction, which is basically the resistance you might feel when trying to change your behavior. So, how do you get into that mindset? It's actually pretty simple. You can try a visualization exercise, and it doesn't have to be anything fancy like sitting in a certain position with your eyes closed. When we hear visualization exercise, we might think of that. But it's not always like that. It can be as easy as thinking about the specific steps you need to take to do the habit you want to start. Imagine you're learning to ride a bike. Before you even hop on, you might picture yourself putting on your helmet, grabbing the handlebars, and pushing off with your feet. Doing this mental rehearsal helps you remember what to do when you actually start pedaling. Similarly, if you want to start making espresso every morning, just picturing yourself going through the motions, like walking to the kitchen, turning on the machine, and pouring the coffee, can make it easier to stick to that routine. This trick isn't just a random idea. Scientists have studied it and found that it really works. When it comes to picking up and sticking to new habits, there's a really powerful tool called task bracketing. This tool relies on special groups of brain circuits known as the basal ganglia. These circuits help us both learn new habits and break old ones. So, what are these basal ganglia circuits all about? Well, they're like the control center for our actions. They have 2 main roles. One is to help us do things, which we call go circuits, and the other is to stop us from doing things, which are called no-go circuits. Now, in real life, some people might find it easier to start doing things but struggle to stop, while others might have a hard time starting but are really good at stopping themselves. Very few people have a perfect balance between these 2 abilities. It's all about how these go and no-go circuits work together in our brains. Task bracketing relies on specific neural circuits found within a part of our brain called the basal ganglia. These circuits are like little guides that help us frame events that happen right before, during, and after we start or stop a habit. Instead of focusing on actually doing the habit itself, these circuits mark the moments surrounding the habit. Task bracketing creates a kind of brain imprint that makes the habit automatic, like a reflex. While just thinking about the steps of a habit, which we call procedural memory, can help, we can also train our nervous system to focus on task bracketing to reinforce habit building. When we engage a specific part of the basal ganglia called the dorsolateral striatum, it gets our body and brain ready to carry out a habit. It's a bit like warming up your body before exercise. It gets your brain ready for habit making, and then you consciously decide which habit to do. When you're trying to start a new habit or break an old one, it's useful to think about more than just the steps of what you're going to do. You should also consider what happens before and after that habit and how much effort it takes. By doing this, you're basically focusing on a specific time frame or sequence of events where dopamine, a chemical in your brain linked to pleasure and reward, can come into play. Let's take a closer look using an example. Imagine you're struggling to find time for 30 to 60 minutes of exercise in the mid-morning. Here's what you can do. First, try to look forward to both the start and finish of your workout. Get yourself pumped up and excited about starting to exercise, and picture how great you'll feel once you're finished. It's important to acknowledge that it might be hard to get motivated at first, but mentally pat yourself on the back for the entire experience, not just for completing the workout itself. In essence, you're giving yourself a reward not only for actually doing the exercise, but also for the process of getting mentally prepared and excited about it beforehand. It's all about recognizing and appreciating the effort it takes to get started and keep going. Now, let's talk about a specific strategy for breaking bad habits. It involves seizing the moment right after you've engaged in the bad habit and replacing it with a different behavior. Here's why this is interesting. Instead of trying to find a replacement behavior that perfectly matches the bad habit, you take advantage of the fact that the neurons responsible for the bad habit were recently active. This means you have a chance to insert a different behavior right after, even if it's not directly related to the bad habit. For instance, you're trying to concentrate on your work, but your phone keeps tempting you away. Instead of just resisting the urge to pick it up and then struggling to get back on track with your tasks, you could try a different approach. After you set the phone aside, you could do something else that's positive right away. And how does engaging in a replacement behavior right after a bad habit work? The major effect of replacing a bad habit with a new positive behavior is that you connect the bad habit with the positive one in your mind. This brings in other parts of your brain that can help break the pattern of the bad habit. In simpler words, it's like creating a two-step habit. First, you do the bad habit, and then you follow it immediately with the good one. This introduces a gap in time between the two actions, which makes it easier for you to recognize when you're about to do the bad habit again later on. Let's say your bad habit is reaching for your phone whenever you should be focusing on work. When you catch yourself doing that, immediately switch gears. Put the phone down and engage in a positive behavior that you've already planned out. It could be anything that you find beneficial. For instance, you might choose to take a sip of water if you're trying to stay hydrated, practice some deep breathing exercises, or spend a few minutes learning a new language. The important thing is to break the cycle of what you were doing and transition to this new positive habit right after the bad one, even if it's only for a brief moment. This helps your brain start connecting the bad habit with the new, positive behavior instead. And this concludes the science behind habit formation. We hope that you learn a lot from this video. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the notification button to stay updated on what's new.